Hello crafty friends, today I'm going to make 10 cards with the September Spellbinders card kit of the month for 2021. Straight into card number 1, I've taken one of the frames and I'm going to back the frame with a piece of the pretty yellow damask patterned paper. I'm just drawing where my frame inside will be, and I'm taking this Spellbinders stamp set to stamp a sentiment inside, and it's going to say happy everything. I'm using VersaFine Clair inks, and I find with these inks, if you let them sit on the paper for a little bit longer than normal, you get a brilliant impression every time. I'll then remove my backing paper to my frame, place that over my sentiment and erase the light pencil marks that I had there. I'm then going to take the dark green speckled paper, which I've cut slightly smaller than the card, and I'll adhere that to my card base with the tape in the kit. Once I have that on, I'll do the same thing with the pretty floral, large floral patterned paper. Once I have that patterned paper firmly attached to the green layer, I'm going to try out my arrangement with the frame and this pretty arrangement of flowers in a jug. I'm going to back my watering can or jug with some thinner foam tape than what comes in the kit. I don't want too much dimension. And then I'll also place a little bit of glue behind both the frame as well as the top of the jug where it's going to overlap with the frame. Get it positioned where I want it. I actually move it down a little so the frame shows a bit more, and I found that I needed some foam tape underneath the top of the flowers as well. I have these pretty puffy green hearts or multicoloured hearts, and I'm going to add just 3 of those there onto the frame to give it the finishing touch. For card number 2, I've used the Gina K Wreath Builder stencil set, and I've stamped out those cute little baby images along with the heart and then coloured those in with my pencils. I have then stamped out one of the sentiments from our stamp set and cut that out with a punch. I'm then going to layer my coloured in wreath of the babies onto the dark blue cardstock that's in the kit. I'm going to pop up my cutout stamped sentiment and place that into the center of my little baby's wreath, and it says welcome to the family. I coloured the stamped images in with the colours from the kit, and I'll list the colours I used below in the description for you. I've then made myself a little fishtail banner, and I'm going to place that onto the bottom section of my card where that white space is. Just making sure I've got it nice and straight with both the edges, and then I'm going to take 3 more of the larger hearts and place them on that banner, as well as 2 little hearts up on the sentiment, and I'm just showing you there the Wreath Builder set from Gina K. I then will take my glossy accents and I'm going around all of the heart to give the heart some more dimension and a little bit of shine on there as well. I think that makes a really cute baby's card. Card number 3, I have taken a piece of patterned paper the same size as the card front and run them both through the die cutting machine with a circle die, and I've cut out an aperture into the front of the card. I've then placed lots of the tape around the front of the card, and I've set a piece of acetate on top. Then place more tape over the acetate, and I'm laying my front paper down on my card base. I'm taking one of the circular chipboard frames and I'm attaching that to the front of the card over top of my aperture. I then have this really cute wheelbarrow, and I've put some foam tape on there as well as some glue, and I'm going to position that so it's just over the bottom of the frame. I've also got a bouquet of flowers here that I've gone over top with some glossy accents, and I'm just measuring where I want my foam tape to sit, and then I'll add some glue and position that over the diagonally opposite corner to the wheelbarrow. I've popped up this sentiment from our die cut pack, and I'm going to place that at the top there with the flowers. It's a nice little thinking of you card. I've made a bow with some white iridescent twine that I had, and I'm going to place that on top of my sentiment as a finishing touch there. I didn't like the inside of the card, how I could see the frame, so I've decided that I'm going to cover that with a piece of the peach coloured paper from our paper pack. And I think I'm much happier with the finished design there. Next time I would probably make my aperture slightly larger. And I'm taking a couple more of those puffy hearts and placing them on as well. And that's card 3 finished. Card number 4, I am going to create a landscape scene. I've taken a piece of the wood paneling looking paper and a piece of the gold damasked printed paper, and I'm placing those onto my card front. The wood grain paper will be the floor and the damask pattern will be my wall, and I'm having a very luxe bathroom. So I have taken the gold cardstock and cut a thin strip to cover the join of the two papers. I've cut the blue doily piece from our ephemera pack in half and attached that to the bottom section of the card, and I'm now just popping my little bathtub up on foam tape, and that's going to sit nicely on top of the blue doily. I've then taken this piece of ephemera, which looks like a shelf. I did cut off one part of the die cut because it had like a casserole dish on it, and I didn't think that would particularly fit nicely in a bathroom. I've then taken this little flag banner and I've cut the triangle piece out so that the damask paper could be seen behind it, and I'll attach that to the top left corner. I am then going to attach this cute little doggy to the bottom right corner, and I've just added a little bit of shading onto his cushion with dark green pencil just to give it a little bit more dimension, and a bit of foam tape behind to help him keep his rounder shape. I want my bathtub to be nice and shiny to match the luxe feel of my scene, so I've added some glossy accents over that and also to the little heart in the banner. I'm then going to place 3 more of my heart stickers floating up from around the bathtub. And that will be my card complete. A very cute bath card there. And you'll see I have a sentiment stamped on the bottom part of the card next to the dog. For card number 5, I'm taking some Catherine Pooler ink in Stone Blue, and I've just put some onto the background of my card base. I'm taking a piece of the green speckled paper and I'm adding that to the bottom of my card, trimming off the excess there. I'm running a thin bead of a glue and then attaching a strip of the gold cardstock to cover where the green paper finishes. I've got 3 of the little houses, and you'll see that I've put glossy accents on each of the windows on each of the houses, and I'm just going to pop it up with some foam tape, positioning it there in the center of the card. And then I've got my 2 little houses that I'll pop up with foam tape, as well as 2 of the little plants. And I thought that these little plants would go on the side of the big house looking like little topiaries. So I've only put foam tape on one side of the plant so that I can then add glue and let it slightly overlap each side of the house. take off the foam tape and then put it into position, and then the second one as well. I'll then take the houses and I'm going to take off their release paper, add a little bit of glue to make sure they're nice and secure, and attach that to the left side, and then also the third little house, taking off its paper and then adding some glue. I just like to add glue because over time the stickiness of the foam tape can deteriorate. And then I've got this little sentiment banner and I'm going to pop that up with some of the foam squares there and a little bit of glue and position that in the centre of my card, and it says home is wherever you are, or something very similar. And I think that would be a lovely card to give someone to let them know that you're thinking of them or missing them. Card number 6, I've taken a piece of this really pretty light grey paper with the hearts and attached it with our roller tape. I've just used a fancy die to cut out a fancy shape on the paper there. I've stamped a sentiment, happy birthday sentiment, from a separate Paper Smooches stamp set. I wanted to make this into a pretty little birthday card. I've taken 2 of the same floral die cut pieces and I'm just trimming off the edges there so I can pop them underneath my sentiment strip. Once I'm happy that they're going to fit perfectly, I'm going to add some glue, spread that out evenly, and then tuck the first floral piece under the sentiment, and then I will tuck the second floral spray back underneath the sentiment as well and firmly hold that in place. I've then taken the chipboard, circular chipboard piece from our pack, and I'm adding some foam tape so it can be lifted up to a similar level as the main sentiment. And then I've also taken another die cut that says today, and I'm placing that at the top there. Now, because it is a birthday card, I've taken this cute little cake and I'm going to add some foam tape to the bottom of the stand and to the middle of the stand, just to keep it popped up and level with the sentiment. Once I've worked out the position, I'll just double check that I've got the foam tape where it needs to be, and I'll add some glue to, no, I'm not adding glue to the top of the cake this time. There's a little gold heart on the chipboard pieces, so I'm adding that above my Celebrate. And I'm bringing in some hunky-dory gold gemstones that I'm then going to add around the sentiment. So I'm taking some of the smaller sizes and just looking at where I want to position those to balance out the image. I'm taking 2 of the medium-sized gemstones, putting one near the cake and then one up the top. And then to finish off, I'll take one of the, I took 3 of the medium size, and then I'm going to add one of the larger size gemstones towards the bottom of the card. And that's my birthday card completed. Card number 7, I have taken this pretty blue coloured paper and I'm going to attach that to my card in a landscape orientation, just making sure I've got my pattern paper the right way up, and then I'll get it nice and firmly attached. I'm taking a piece of the peach coloured paper and I'm adding some tape to that, and then I will attach that piece on the bottom third of my card. This is going to serve as the grounding for my focal images. So adding a little bit of glue to the top of that peach coloured paper, and then I'm adding 2 strips of the gold cardstock to the top and bottom to give us a nice focal area. I leave those long bits attached to the card while the glue dries, because if I try and cut it while the glue's wet, they will move on me with this glue. This piece of paper here is the aperture from card number 2, and I'm going to place that there over my panel I've made. I've got 3 paper flowers here that match back into the colours of the kit, and I've tied them together with a piece of the iridescent twine that I had earlier. I'm using 3 glue dots on the back of the flowers, and I'm just rubbing them on nice and firmly to get them to adhere. And I still have to hold them down a little bit because they are quite well stuck to their backing paper. And there's the third one. I ended up using my fingers to pull it off the sheet rather than trying to get it to stick. It was being a little difficult on me. So that will be held nicely in place by those glue dots. And then I've taken another glue dot and I'm just going to ball it up a little bit and place that underneath my stems to hold them in place, along with the bow I've got tied there. Now that I'm happy with how my flowers are attached, I've got the little bicycle and I've got that popped up on some foam tape, and I'm going to attach that onto my panel. Just pulling off all the release tape, a little bit fiddly, but it's important to make sure you've got good coverage with your foam so that you don't get any bits sagging or dipping when it's posted. I've got my sentiment here that says happy day, and I've put that on some foam tape, and then I'm going to place that onto my panel just to the bottom right. Next, I'm just looking for a little banner or fishtail banner, and I'm going to place that up in the top corner. And the pattern on that little banner matches the pattern that's on the circle that I've got die cut. I'll add a little heart to that banner, trim off the excess gold paper, and run a little bit of glossy accents over my sentiment to give a bit more texture and dimension. And I've also done the same thing with the little heart on the banner. I then continue to add some more gloss to my card, just where the baskets holding the flowers are. And that is another pretty little note card that can be used for multiple occasions. For card number 8, I'm using this pretty mustard seed yellow paper with the little ditzy floral on it. I'm going to cover the whole of my card front. I've then taken a piece of our gold cardstock and embossed it with this Caran Studios embossing folder, and I'm going to back that onto a piece of the black cardstock in our kit. I've just trimmed some of the black cardstock off the side so that I had a nice fine border around my gold embossed panel. I'll then place that onto the left side of my card and use some blocks to hold it down so I get good adhesion. I've taken 2 of the square die cuts from the kit and I've backed those also onto some black cardstock, and I'm going to position those onto the card so that they're side by side, almost like little picture frames on a wall. And I'll attach those, trying to get them as level as possible and evenly distanced. I've taken 2 of the yellow coloured butterflies and I'm going to attach one of the butterflies to each of those panels I've made. I've put some glue down the centre of my butterfly and a little bit of foam to keep the wings held upright. And I'll do the same thing here with the second butterfly, foam tape, glue in the middle, and it just gives the butterflies a bit more depth and dimension that way. I did need to hold my butterflies in place for a couple minutes just to make sure they had good contact. I'm taking the half of the doily that I didn't use in a previous card, and I'm going to place that underneath my two butterflies, and this will be used to position or locate my sentiment. I've got the little blue bow from the die cuts, and I'm going to attach that to the top of my cards, and then I'm bringing in 3 of the little heart-shaped ephemera pieces, and they look like little heart-shaped buttons. So I'm putting 3 onto my gold embossed circles just to give a little bit of interest. I've then got this sending hugs sentiment that comes from a pink fresh hot foil plate, and I've die cut that out, and I'm adding that onto the doily for my sentiment for this card. While that dries, I'm just going to run down the body of my butterflies with some glossy accents, and then I'm using my Spectrum Noir pen, and I'm going to add some sparkle to the wings of my butterflies as well as my bow up the top. I'll then place some of the sparkle pen over my 3 hearts, and then I'm going to come in with this Nouveau drop and just add a little button into the center of my bow, and then I'm putting some very tiny little dots on the holes of where the buttons would be. And that's a very cute little card finished, ready for sending. Card number 9, I'm using a scrap piece of the yellow damask paper, and I am using a stamp from another collection, and it says Sending Warm Wishes. I found it hard to find enough variety in the sentiments that were on our stamp set, so I did want to add some other sentiments in that would be more useful to me for my card giving. I backed my little stamp sentiment onto some black card, and then I've taken a piece of the tree paper and backed that onto some black cardstock as well. I've chosen this very cute paper with all the different types of houses on, and I'm going to add to that my piece of paper with our trees. Just taken off all that sticky tape, firmly press that on. That was my sentiment strip, and then I realized no, I can't put that on yet because I need to put this die cut flag shape over top of my trees there, and I'm just going to make sure I have that positioned so it's level with the top of my card, and then I'll firmly press that down. Now I can come in with my sentiment and I can place that into position. I'll give that a nice firm press. I've then got this very cute heart that I've cut from our gold cardstock, and I'm going to attach that to the top corner of my sentiment. I've taken another one of our chipboard flags and add that to the top, and then the flower arrangement from the chipboard set as well. I wanted to add some more gold to my card, so I've got my gemstones here in the medium size, and I'm adding those to each corner. I'm then going to add some glossy accents to my flowers in the bouquet at the top. Just wanted to make sure there was some shine on those to help them stand out from the rest of the background. And I'll make sure that I get all those little flowers on that chipboard piece as well. I then place one of the gold crystals onto the corner of the heart where it would be if I didn't have the heart there, and then 2 smaller crystals on the corners of my sentiment strip. For my final card, I'm going to bring out the stamp set again, and I'm taking the pretty decorated heart, and I'm just going to stamp some of these randomly onto my card base. Now, I found that when I stamped, I didn't press quite evenly on some of the hearts, and I had to re-stamp over top. My tip for if you find that you've got to restamp over an image where it's missed and you're not using a MISTI is to not re-ink your stamp, just to place it as close as possible to having it aligned and stamping over top again. I did it again there, and you'll see I don't re-ink before I stamp it down again. That helps to prevent having like a double image or a blurry image when you stamp it a second time. I've then got all these little babushka dolls that I have coloured in with my pencils, and again the colours will be listed below in the description. And I've popped each of them up onto some foam tape. I'm then going to take off my foam tape from each of the dolls one at a time and place them onto the card. I'm not pressing down too firmly at the moment with the foam tape. I just want to make sure I'm happy with the positioning first. Once I am happy with the positioning, I will use my scissors and trim off the excess that's overhanging from the card. I'm then going to keep those pieces, and you'll see that I will trim them so that they can be reused to fill in different parts of the card where there's spaces. So here's the little blue dolly. I've cut her so she's nice and even. I'll trim this orange babushka so that she's level, and then position her onto the card front there so she's nice and aligned with the edge. And again, same thing with the bottom of the pink dolly. I'm then going to stamp my sentiment onto the circular ephemera piece that was in our kit, and I'm adding a little bit of sparkle onto the flowers with my Spectrum Noir clear sparkle pen. And the sentiment says, "You are beautiful inside and out," which I think is pretty appropriate when you consider how babushka dolls or matryoshka dolls work. So I'm just popping up my sentiment with some foam tape, the same thickness as the tape used on the dolls, and I'm then going to place my glue onto the outside edges of the card where they'll touch the dolls. I do come back later and add some additional foam tape into some of the gaps just to make sure it stays level. I'm using my glossy accents to give some highlights onto each of the dolls. I go over the floral in the center of their little bellies. I then will go over and do the leaves as well as the little leaf on the top of her head. And I'll do that for each of the babushkas. I then will come in and also use the glossy accents just to add a little detail to the bottom wavy edge of the babushka dolls as well. I didn't want to add lots of shininess to this card, and I didn't add any sequins to it or the gold crystals. I wanted to use the glossy accents, which allows the colour to shine through, but also gives a little bit of dimension. So I'm going to take some of the coloured hearts that I have, and I'm going to add those to the card. I'm going to go over top of my sentiment piece there with the glossy accents to give it a little shine. My recommendation is if you do that, then make sure you have plenty of foam tape underneath your sentiment piece, as what it can curl up on you if you don't have enough under there. And I'm just making sure all the little hearts that I'm adding in are nice and firmly pressed on, and that my card base is nice and firmly attached to my card panel. And there you go, that's my 10 cards finished. Here's a little look at all 10 cards that I've made using the kit. I still have lots of supplies left, so I think I could easily make another 10. I had lots of fun using the stamp set in the kit this month, and I hope you enjoy using your stamp set and kit contents as well when they get to you. Let me know if you have a favourite card, or if you'd like to see any more detail on any of the techniques that I've used. That will help me make sure that I'm including what you like to see in my next videos. So thank you very much for joining me, and until next time, bye for now.